After using these 10 tips I'm about to share with you, I was able to get over 105,000 views on my Reddit live session. So that was the total views for a 90-minute live session I did on Reddit. That's why live streaming is something we all need to understand and use for our advantage. I've been live streaming regularly with my budget live streaming gear, so it's something that can be really helpful. So you don't have to have fancy equipment, but in these tips I'm going to give you an outline of how you can make your live stream go really well. Live streaming has a real raw feeling about it, so more important than the numbers and the viewership is the ability for you to share something in a unique way. In this short video I'm going to share these 10 tips to help you get the most from your live streaming. Make sure you stick around till the end because there's a trap a lot of live streamers fall into, and I don't want you falling into this trap. Number 10, have a plan. So having an essential outline of what the live stream is going to be about will actually help you a great deal, because sometimes you might get viewers, sometimes you might not get viewers. So if you can plan your video in a way that it actually has great replay value, the plan will be essential because that live stream won't go to waste. Have a few bullet points that you're aiming to cover. If you get people coming in chat, that you can fill up the gaps in between that with obviously interaction with the chat. But that's a plan. I think number 10, that's something you need to definitely have on your radar. Number 9, make sure to start with a punch. What do I mean by that? Not a physical punch, but more, make sure you know what you're talking about and what your live stream is going to be about. As soon as you click go live, you want to be able to at least speak about your topic or the outline for the show for the first 5 to 10 minutes. The reason for that is it will take a little bit of time for that notification to hit everybody and people start coming into chat. So for the replay purposes, like we talked about in point 10, if you have a setup, you can actually plan to have the initial starting of this video quite nicely set up so you can have good retention. We don't want people coming onto the stream and it's like, is this live? Hello? Hello? Is that camera on? Hello? You don't want any of that. You want to get straight into your topic and go straight to town with it. Number 8, have multiple views. You'll be amazed how more interesting the live stream can go if you have a few different angles. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can have a simple up-down shot to show a different view of your setup. You could have something like another camera off center. You can even make the same camera closer and further away by zooming in on the actual camera. So these will create additional points of interest, and especially with my Reddit live session that I did that I talked about, I basically had a top down shot on my desk, I had a front shot, I had 2 camera shots. So you don't have to go fancy with this, but it does help to have a bit more element to the video. You want to basically make the viewer feel like they're seeing everything you can see, because if you're talking about something and they can't see it, they're basically losing out on something there. So you want to make that live session as nice as possible and package it in a way that the viewer feels like, oh wow, I saw quite a bit there. He showed me his desk, he was able to show me what he was talking about, as well as me seeing him talk about that item. Number 7, encourage interaction. So with the live stream, what you will find is it's actually a slight delay. So what I'm saying right now may take 30 or 40 seconds before the viewer here's what I said. So plan for that. If you have any people in chat, you notice people coming in and saying hello, make sure you encourage that. Thanks for coming, nice to have you here, we're talking about X today, let me know your questions in chat. Or even better, have a few questions prepared. Like in my live session on Reddit, what I did was I had a few questions set aside. I was talking about action cameras and what are good action cameras. So when I saw a peak amount of people, I think at one point there was 25,000 people watching me live, I had a few questions set aside, which I said, oh, what cameras are you using? Have you used action cameras? What is your pet peeve with action cameras? And I left that out there. Then I carried on speaking. I didn't wait for a reply because I knew that would take up to a minute before the viewers would see that, because it's a live stream. It is live, but there is some latency issues and encoding of the video that takes time to get to the viewer. So then what you've got is a bank of responses in chat that will come up a couple of minutes down the line. So after I asked that, I carried on with the camera and I showed, let's have a look at this action camera. So this camera has the X lens, this lens is better than this lens, and then I glanced up at chat and saw the answers coming in. And then at that point, new people are dropping in as well. So you're taking advantage of this because you're saying, oh yeah, so that question I asked earlier, Jimmy mentioned a reply to that and this is his response, let's address that. And then you've got a few more bits there that you can put into your Q&A. If you had a plan, like we mentioned in point 10, at the end of it, you can have a Q&A session where you've got people in chat that you can respond to. Because remember, you want good replay value on this as well. So if you keep darting about in the middle of the chunk of the video, the people that are watching the replay may not be interested in you speaking to Jimmy about his camera and specifically. So try and keep that to the end of the video, because then you're not going to lose your first half of your audience watching that replay value. Okay, so point 6, make it visually pleasing. So if I show you a quick print screen of my Reddit session, you'll see I had a slight bit of overlays on there, had a little bit of artwork on there. I set up my cameras in a way that they looked nice and it was coherent, as in my hands were visually visible while I was doing my talking. So it wasn't like a disconnect. I wasn't looking right and my arms were on the left. So you want to make sure you pay attention to those little things to make it coherent. When people are watching, they want to be able to see and it makes sense what you're doing. Having multiple cameras can get confusing if they're not coherent and you're doing the same thing in the cameras. We covered the first 5 points there quite quickly. That's just basically letting you know what is nice for you to know about. The next 5 are going to be some essential tips, so make sure you stick around. And the first one I'm going to give you is a trap that I don't want you falling into, so make sure you watch that one. Drop me a like if you're liking this so far, and let's continue. Okay, dealing with latency delays. This is something that will happen on most live streams. Like I mentioned earlier, when you're speaking in chat or you're saying something, there will be a disconnect between your sentence and what the viewer hears. So don't expect quick responses from people if you're talking to them. This is like a main one, what I see a lot on live streams. People ask a question and they're waiting for that person to reply to them and there's a silence. Try and avoid that at all costs. Drop the question out there and move on. Then remember to have a look at chat down the line a couple of minutes and you'll be able to pick up that response. And that actually works quite well for your audience because they'll see you're picking up items from a chat and responding to them and not keeping everybody else waiting for that answer. Number 4, this is quite an important one. Consider your background. If you're live streaming and you're lucky enough to have a nice backdrop like I've basically got a studio setup which is designed just for live streaming. However, you might be doing on your mobile phone and you might have your background, your room or wherever you're sitting. Try a bit of management behind you just to make sure there's nothing too distracting and we don't want your bed undone behind you, stuff like that. So something simple, but it can happen. So make sure you make it as nice as possible for anybody watching you. Think of it like you've got guests coming to your show or your house even, and you want them to have a nice impression of you. Okay, number 3. Be comfortable with your gear. It's important that you understand the equipment you're using. The last thing we want is you having a brand new camera and a mic and you just go into a live stream. Do some test channels. On YouTube or most platforms, you can set up a test channel where you can actually test videos. I've got a virtual Zulf channel where I actually just live stream test performances to you before I go live. So I'm all set up. If I'm about to go live, I'll do a 2-minute live stream on my test channel to make sure everything's working as it should be. The audio's coming through, the videos are coming through, the screen flips are working. It's actually quite a decent thing to do because you'll pick up little things that you wouldn't have noticed. When you test live stream it, then you can watch that back and see if there's anything. Is the audio too high? Is the lighting looking funny? Is one of the cameras off center or something like that, which will look kind of distracting to someone? And if you could do a 90-minute session, you don't want that mistake in your mainstream. So make sure you understand your gear, set up a test channel. It helps you a lot. Okay, number 2. This is something that I think I was thinking about putting it as number 1, but I didn't because I've got a better one for number 1. Number 2 is keep it simple. Sometimes you might want to get loads of fancy angles and things, but remember, everybody's built up to that stage. So you can't just start a stream and have 3 cameras and trying to set up multiple things. Start with one camera, build up on it, because as you learn, you'll get better. Don't automatically compare yourself to somebody else who's doing a massive live stream and has loads of cameras and loads of different setups and funny screens and all sorts. That's something that you will build up to. So that's a quick tip, but I think it's important to mention. First tip, this is the one that is a trap. Don't strive to be perfect. I know it's probably counterintuitive, but a live stream is live. There will be mistakes. There will be sections where you turn to the wrong screen or you show the wrong screen or you say the wrong name. You have to be able to take it as it is and take it in your stride. If something doesn't work quite right, oh, sorry about that, guys. Let me just take you on to this. So kind of go over that. Try not to dwell on any mistakes. And remember, if you're doing it on YouTube, you can always go into editor and cut that little bit out. So it's not a be and all of everything. If you're doing Twitch or other live streaming, gaming and stuff, that's different elements. You can actually record locally as well, which is an extra bonus tip that I'm going to give you. If you're live streaming and using some software, record that live stream at the same time to your hard drive so you've got a backup of that file, which you can edit and make multiple smaller videos for later on. So you're future-proofing yourself. You're making multiple content and multitasking. That was your 10 tips today. I'm hoping you found these helpful. And if you're still struggling to set up live streaming, I've got a whole setup where I'm explaining live streaming and the basics of live streaming. Because in my recent poll on my channel in the community tab, I know a lot of you guys want step-by-step basic videos. So those will be coming up in this playlist.